Hello everyone and welcome to a new developer's diary. In this video we're going to take a look at the sub-boss for the first level, Death, but before we do so I just want to talk a bit about the upcoming demo and about boss fights in general. I've actually been really busy with boss fights the past couple of weeks. Apart from this sub-boss I'm going to show you today, I've also done the end boss for level 1, the end boss for level 2, and also the end boss for the outer wall area. You may recall that I actually did the level 2 boss, the Slogger and Gaiben boss fight about a year ago, but that was more just to demonstrate the viability of a 2-player option. This time I've gone back and I've done the AI properly, and you'll be able to see the results in next week's video, which will be just a recording of me playing the demo on a CRT. Now I'm only going to be showing little snippets of the demo because there are some things that I want people to experience for the first time when they play it themselves around Christmas. So for example, the boss for entrance 1 and the boss for the outer wall area, I definitely want to keep those as a surprise, and there's some kind of redesigns of the level that I want people to experience for the first time around Christmas too. But I will be showing some new areas I haven't shown before and also some new basic enemies, so I think it's going to be a fun video. It'll just be a few minutes long, just a few little snippets, a little highlight, a little taster of what's to come in the demo this Christmas. Since we're talking about sub-bosses today, I want to thank everyone for their feedback regarding the hammer boss here. I think that everyone had lots of very good ideas. When I was designing it, I had a few ideas for new attacks myself, but I didn't want to stray too much from the original. I wanted to just clean things up a bit, but it does seem that people have a real appetite for maybe some more differences between the original and this one. So while I'm going to keep it as is for now for the Christmas demo, in the future I will go back to these bosses and also regular enemies and level design and just maybe tweak a few things here and there. So thanks very much for the suggestions, and at some point in the future you'll probably see some of those attack patterns, suggested attack patterns and so on in the game. Okay, now let's take a look at the death boss fight, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes to explain things.
I demand you cease your attack.
I will not.
You shall regret those words. Meet again.
Okay, so I hope everyone enjoyed that. You can see that there are a few missing sound effects plus a few placeholder graphics, but I think you can get a general gist of where I want to go with the fight just by looking at this early build. Since this is the very first boss fight of the game, I want to keep things fairly easy and keep the attack patterns nice and simple and avoidable, but I may increase the difficulty at some point in the future. Game difficulty is a very interesting topic, and I have to be very careful as the coder and designer of the game not to make the game too difficult, because after all, especially when I'm coding a boss for example, I have to keep on playing the game over and over and over again, and the more you repeat something and play something, obviously the better you become. So what's easy to me might be difficult for someone else, so I have to be careful not to fall into that trap and keep things fair for the player. In this excellent documentary on the making of Rondo of Blood by Stray Fox, it was mentioned that the designers of the bosses were given the task they had to prove that they could defeat any boss they designed without taking any damage, and that will keep things fair to players. So I'm keeping myself to that standard, so all of the bosses I've got in the game so far are ones that I can defeat without taking any damage, so hopefully when everyone plays it they'll find it fair and not too difficult. Before we take a look at the boss fight again, I just want to make a correction from last week. So last week I said that the music for the sub-boss Death Ballad was by Aliana, but actually it's by Ten no Ko. You know, it's quite funny, people get mixed up about who's doing what all the time. For example, this Shinobi game, the port of the arcade, lots of people ask me when I'm going to finish it or why I stopped working on it. But of course they're getting mixed up because I'm working on the GG Shinobi, not this Shinobi game. This Shinobi game, the port of the arcade, looks amazing, so I hope it does get finished one day, but it's got nothing to do with me. But even when it comes to my own projects, because there's so many people involved, I get a little bit confused sometimes myself, so it's understandable that people get confused with stuff I'm doing as well. I do actually have a playlist of all the music done for the project so far on my channel, so I'd encourage you to go and take a look at that. And it's got all the musicians, for example 76KB, Engelbart, Aliana, and of course Tenno Ko as well. And while you're there, you can also go to each musician's YouTube channel too, because every musician's done their own projects apart from Symphony of the Night. For example, Tenno Ko has been involved in the Asta Bros project, so you can listen to some of these tracks for that. Going back to the battle with death, one of the first things you'll notice is that the dialogue is a bit truncated, so it's a little bit different from the original, but I think that's a good move, not only to save on cartridge space, which isn't so important considering that we've got the bank switching now, but also just to keep the action moving, because you don't necessarily want to have to wait for the cutscene to play out in an action game. I also created some new codes so that when Death's speaking at that first bit, you can't move the character, because it would be a bit unfair if you could keep hitting, getting lots of cheap shots in on Death while he's talking, and maybe even kill him before the fights even begins. So that bit of code will be useful for when you go through exit or enter rooms. Just have a little bit period where you can't control Alucard, where something automatic happens. Regarding the speech itself, I plan to have a Chinese version of the game, so eventually I'll have it so that Death and Alucard speak Chinese. And since even on this channel lots of the people who watch it are from Brazil or different parts of South America or different parts of the world, I think it'd be nice eventually to have different localizations, for example a Brazilian Portuguese version and all kind of different Spanish versions as well as from different countries. So that would be good to have, but it's a bit early to implement that at the moment. During the fight, you would have seen me use not only the sword but also the sub-weapons, the axe, to attack Death. Now in the original, each sub-weapon, the amount of damage it does, it depends on which character you're using, so it gets quite complicated. For this version at the moment, I've kept it fairly simple, so when you hit them with the sword you do 2 damage, and when you hit them with any kind of sub-weapon, be it the knife or the axe or the holy water, it's just 1 damage per hit. So the sub-weapons do half as much damage as the main attack as a sword at the moment, which seems quite fair to me, but this could change in the future. It depends on everything, how many hearts are in each level, in each candle, how many hit points each boss or enemy has, how much damage each attack does. It's all holistic, you have to be considered as a whole rather than individually, so this will probably might change in the future, but for now and probably for the demo, it's going to be half damage for a sub-weapon hit and normal damage for a regular hit. For the Christmas demo, you'll notice that I've done a few placeholder graphics. For example, at the moment the end boss of level 1 is just something I did, and it's probably going to be that version until Pyron gets around to changing it. But the death here is actually Pyron, so it's already looking really great, and if you haven't seen it already, I definitely recommend that you watch the recent video that Pyron did about sprites, where he did these in conjunction with some other people. They put some huge sprites on the screen, and the video is really interesting. It's got an English translation now where it goes into detail about the Mega Drive's limits as compared to the PC Engine, the Super Nintendo, and how they managed to get such big sprites on the screen. Okay, so that's about it for this video. As always, thanks very much for watching, and if you're interested in this type of content, don't forget to subscribe.
I'm interested in this.
And for those of you who wish to support the channel, I have a Patreon, and any support is much appreciated.
You won't go unrewarded.
Until next time,
farewell.